about, the Israelite chart, even the one that the Black Hebrews and Hebrew Israelites use, I know that it was not complete in that sense. When I say complete in the sense of it's focusing mostly on like the so-called, Western Hemisphere. So I'm going to do it right here. This is from IsraeliteNet.net. And let me just get a copy of this right here. And I'll put it on the desktop so I can find it easily and even open it again. So this right here, if you can zoom in on it, I'm doing speak a couple of words on this. Is from Israelite.net because of the questions concerning the dispersed Israelites, and I'm on the global scale. Now, this is not to say that the so-called Black Hebrew Israelite chart is inaccurate. It's incomplete, and depends on how you approach, when you see the different nations that are mentioned there. So what we're going to do is we're going to back up this page right here. Let's back up this page right here. And what we did was look for this right here. So you could pause the vid and take down the information if you're interested in following up. I think this is probably the best way to, so you can see it's at Israelite.net/disperse.pdf. But the name, right, the name of the document, let's bring this down right here. You can see what we searched was the tribes of Israel in Genesis. Okay, let's move this over here. The tribes of Israel in Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy 33, the PDF. We went to a particular site. I guess they might have put it up on, one of these doc sites, but they want you to get a kind of a registration and all that. So it's kind of a monetization with that thing there. But on the Israelite.net site, you can basically get to download the document for free and to peruse it and study it. Now, what I wanted to bring forward, since these windows are acting up right now, is, as you can see on the monitor. Okay, here we go again. All right, so here we go. All right, so this is the information on that, and the link is down here, so you can see which one it is. Take a snapshot of that. Biblical lost tribes of Hebrew Israelites in Asia, Africa, and the four winds, to the four winds. So this one is more complete in the sense of the biblical prophecy that the Israelites would be scattered to the four winds of the earth. Okay, return to that one right there. Here we go right here. So this is that other docs thing. Maybe we'll sign in, maybe we'll register or not, but you can still download it for free. So you can see it right here. All right, so we have the 12 tribes of Israel in Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy 33. All right, so you see where Judah says the Mandingo or the blacks. So that is a Negro, also called a Negro. So if you compare this with some of the Hebrew Israelite Black Hebrew charts, they would just say it's just the Negroes in North America only. You see what I'm saying? So there's a reason why, COINTELPRO is a reason why, because the Stopping the Rise of Black Messiah, that a lot of disinformation concerning the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews from the 20s and 30s was disseminated, especially during the late 60s, but especially through the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, and has really led to the half of the story not being told. This is why the chart of the Black Hebrew and the Hebrew Israelites basically is speaking of the Western Hemisphere, not of the four winds. This one here is more complete, and it's from Israelite.net, right? Israelite.net. And let's just go through this right here so you can get a kind of an overview of it. So you see even Dan, the Moors, the Gypsies, Naphtali, Polynesian, Araucanos, then Gad, North American Indians. So you can see how a lot of this corresponds. Ephraim, Carib, the Carib, Puerto Ricans. And there's some more information and detail in this as well. that needs to also be updated. I could touch on some of this, but it's kind of interesting how this is a more complete, the Israelite remnants, right, are also scattered among the Sephardim, the Africans, and the Asians, because Hebrew in and of itself is an Afro, it's an Afro-Shemitic language, Afro-Asiatic, Como-Semitic, like Amharic as well. And then the good is being Shemitic. That's a related point, but keep that as a footnote right now. So we see on this page here, this gives you like kind of clips and bits and bytes of this particular article, but you can read it at this particular site as well. The dispersed Israelites we have in India and Burma and Kashmir, Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, Japan, Ecuador, Latin America, and in Africa. So when we hear about like these wars and massacres also happening in many of these places, we have to know that it's the enemy's attempt to stop the rise, right, of the messiahs. When the messiahs that prophecy says will come to the mount of Esau, right, and judge it. So anyway, that's a related part of the prophecy. So in Asia, who are the Jews of Africa are not the only Jews or the Hebrews that live in remote and distant areas far away from the mainstream of so-called contemporary or Western Gentile, the Ashkenazi and the other pop Jews, right? Similarly, non-traditional Jewish communities exist all over the world, from the jungles of the Amazon to distant mountains of India. And this document here gives you more of the documentation. So for our people, I would like us to, build on this information, which is more complete, more extant, as we can say, than many of the Black Hebrew Israelite abbreviated charts. I would call those abbreviated charts. Okay, let's give you an example right here. This is the same chart that we have right here. So we're just going to bring that into the photo, but we can use this right here. Okay, so we have, that's right there. Because it's in all nations. That's Yahweh's word, right? In all nations, right? So you see right here, okay, Judah, Sephardim, Ebo or Ibo, Ebo, Hebos, right? The Mandingo, right? And there's an interesting movie, Mandinga. If anybody has a copy of that, let's link up. Anyway, Reuben, Aborigine of Australia, Pacific, Simon or Simeon, right? Yoruba, Fulani, Maasi, right? The Levi or Lewi, Falasha, Ashanti, Zulu, and going through the whole breakdown right there. You can pause it. Right. Now here for Ephraim, it says the Negritos of Asia. Now this is somewhat similar to the other chart over here, but before we go to that, let's just quickly compare with what many of the Hebrew Israelite, the broken branches from the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews, the commandment keepers, who we can really credit with the real resurrection, the real birth, of the nation from the roaring 20s, to such a time as the crowning of Haile Selassie I, right, of Ethiopia. Now, we know there's a lot of COINTELPRO that has gone out there. This is why there are a lot of false and disinformation, right, concerning the King of Kings of Ethiopia and the significance, right, of the coronation of Haile Selassie I. Now, this is more of an abbreviated chart over here. Right? Kind of, you can say a summary. It's mainly pointing to, you could say, to preach to those in the West. Now, many have taken that this in and of itself, if it's not on here, then others who are scattered to the other winds are not included. And that is an error, that should be repented of, and corrected. That must be, but it should be, right? So here's another example of a similar chart. So this is not that this is incorrect, but it's not complete, right? So it make ones and ones reject these other peoples, right? These other tribes who are our peoples, right? And not judging by outer appearances, but judging by righteousness. These things will be hopefully made clear to ones and ones. So I want to do a quick a vlog. This is not going to be a VLEC, a V lecture, but this will be just a kind of a vlog, just log this information, follow up and check it out. So here's another version in that sense of what we just looked at. I think this might be one of the older versions, and the one in color seems to be somewhat updated, right? Seems to be updated because as we study, much more information becomes available. Now, here's something that's very interesting too. This map right here, and we can see in this particular map, right, the various different dispersions, right, after 70 AD, right, North Africa, right, and also along this river of Egypt. Remember what we said about the river of Egypt? When you look at Genesis chapter 15, I think verse 18, it said from the river of Egypt to the river of Euphrates. So we were driven out of the presence of Yahweh, and this is the Holy Land, from the river of Egypt, East Africa, going all the way to the river of the Euphrates, before you enter in right around Babylon. So you can see this east to west movement. Certain tribes remained within that inheritance land, like the Beta Israel, or so-called Felashas or Felashim of Tobi of Ethiopia. Right, so we know that that's also linked right there. And then they have the Limba peoples, and the document we showed you at the beginning of the vid goes into a lot of those related details. So be sure to check that out as well. So let's move this, right? Move this over here, right? Move this over here, and let's paste in this as well and compare these two charts right here. All right, so what do we have right here, right? We have a more expanded, speaking to the prophecy of the four winds, a more expanded view of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel according to their modern names and nomenclatures. In other words, what they are called and what they are known by in this present time. Let's see if we can get that other one so we can compare it. Okay, here, check out our VLEC, short VLEC on myth, right? Because we think that in and of itself is a bad term, but it's whose myth? You know what I mean? Whose mythos, right? Or mystery. Myth is related to mystery. Just give you that kind of heads up right there. So let's look at these two right here. Right, let's look at these two right here. Let's bring this up to about 40%. Okay, that's a little too large. So let's go about 30. Let's go 33. Okay, 33 is almost perfect right there. Okay, now you see that right there? Okay, so let's put this side by side. Right, let's put this side by side, and you can see it a little better. Side by side. I don't know if it's kind of small, but you can still, the earlier part we zoomed in so you can see a little more clearer and fuller. Now, if at the bottom of the color one, you see where it says the three sons of Noah. Japheth, it has the Asians right here. Ham, right? Ham, North Africans. Very interesting, right? This is very interesting, and from what we've studied, this is a very accurate way of putting it, updating that information. You know how the Western Gentile, the Europeans, through like the whole white supremacist model, has confused a lot of things, but there's still a lot of information that was already existing before he started to his academia, with that white supremacy thing, to say that like all black people are Ham because you're dark, you must be Ham, and creating this kind of cartoon picture. Right? The thing we need to remember that they all came from one father, Noah, and to make that link there, and also to recognize how peoples have migrated over time. We're talking about Ham, Shem, and Japheth just getting an overview, but this whole idea of the table of nations as we received it previously because of the curse of Ham, lie, because Ham wasn't cursed, it was Canaan or Canaan. Anyway, Shem would represent the Mid-East, right? And it says Europe and India. Now, there's a very interesting connection with that, but definitely what we would call the Mid-East, or that region from the river of Egypt, the river of Ethiopia, to the river of the Euphrates, right? So when we're looking at Africa, often what happens is that ones would disclude, right, this region right here. We have to include that region if we are in keeping and seeking to be in keeping, right, with the word of Jah, with the word of Yah, with the word of the Almighty. And if we want to see what the prophecy is and be in the fulfillment of the blessings of the prophecy, right? The word is significant. So right here, this region from here to here is what we're talking about. Roughly from here, you trace the rivers, right? You trace these rivers, and you see how these rivers go all the way down here into Lake Victoria, and you can see this root. This might be the Lemba people root, but you can see the root of these peoples, right? In Ethiopia, this might be roughly Kenya, Uganda area, the mountain of the moon. And then down here we get to South Africa. And then other tribes of the people went west. Now we also have other tribes that went to the east. And there's another map that points that out very, very well. So when we're speaking about who are the 12 tribes of Israel, I would like the Wendemoch, the brothers and sisters, the disciples, to check this out. Check out this website, Israelite. Let's bring up, they see at the bottom right there, Israelite.net, right? Israelite.net for at least a much more comprehensive point of view than the abridged point of view, right, that we get or have gotten from some of the Black Hebrew Israelites. And it's, like I said, it's not to say that the chart is incorrect, but many do not know how to interpret the chart. And because of the other information that we're pointing out right here, so it's comparing this, right, with this, right? It's comparing this, right, with this, right? So as you go through this, the Negroes, right there, here, the blacks, well, on the other chart, it says the blacks, here it says the Mandingo, all right? See, these are just names. These are bywords, it says bywords. One of the biggest bywords for the Jews or the Israelites is the term Negro. But this does not mean that those who might not be called Negro are not of Israel. All right. So just to kind of make that clear right there, wanted to say a couple of words on this, and shalom.
Yeah.